All right, let's dive right into this explainer and completely reframe something every single one of us does every night. For a long time, so many of us have looked at sleep as just this pesky, unproductive requirement, right? Like it's a complete waste of time when we could be out there getting things done. But today, we're going to totally flip that script. We're taking sleep from a biological annoyance and turning it into a high-stakes biological thriller. By digging into the latest science, we're going to uncover exactly why we humans literally need to surrender a massive one-third of our existence to sleep and how it is secretly our absolute greatest superpower.
To really appreciate this, we kind of have to start by asking a rather blunt question. Is sleep an evolutionary mistake? I mean, from a sheer survival perspective, sleep seems utterly absurd. When you're asleep, you can't gather food. You can't socialize. You definitely can't find a mate or protect your offspring. And worst of all, you are left completely, terrifyingly vulnerable to predators. On the surface, lying unconscious and defenseless for hours on end just seems like the most foolish biological phenomenon imaginable.
This quote brilliantly captures the stakes we're dealing with here. As one prominent sleep scientist pointed out, if sleep doesn't serve an absolutely vital function, well then it's the biggest blunder Mother Nature ever made. But here's the crazy thing. Sleep has persisted, heroically so. Every single species studied to date sleeps. Even primordial worms that lived over 500 million years ago experienced sleep phases. That means even a massive, terrifying T-Rex had to find a safe spot to take a nap. Mother Nature absolutely mandated this state for all of life, which means the benefits of sleep simply have to far outweigh those massive, glaring survival risks.
And that brings us to a staggering human statistic. Despite all the intense evolutionary pressures of life, we humans willingly surrender a full one-third of our entire lives to this highly vulnerable, unconscious state. Just really think about that for a second. 1 out of every 3 hours you exist, you are essentially offline.
Putting that into perspective visually, you are giving up roughly 25 to 30 years of your total average lifespan just to sleep. That is decades of time. So we absolutely have to ask the big question. What are the specific biological mechanisms that force us to do this? And what exactly are we getting in return for those 30 years?
Well, the urge to sleep kicks off with a fascinating chemical called adenosine. You can think of adenosine kind of like a biological timer. From the very moment you wake up, this chemical begins building up in your brain. Every single hour you're awake, that adenosine concentration increases, creating this mounting weight that scientists very appropriately call sleep pressure. The longer you stay awake, the heavier that chemical sleep pressure becomes, making you feel increasingly tired. Now take a look at how this daily energy push and pull is mapped out. Notice the solid line. That is process S, representing that heavy adenosine sleep pressure that builds relentlessly all day long. Now look at the dotted line right below it. That's process C, our internal 24-hour circadian rhythm, which is basically an internal clock pushing a wakefulness drive. When the distance between these two lines is at its greatest, which is usually late at night, that's when you experience your absolute strongest urge to sleep. So, when you finally give in, close your eyes, and go to sleep, your brain initiates a massive evacuation process. The nightly purge begins. Sleep literally lifts that heavy weight of sleep pressure by degrading and completely removing that day's built-up adenosine. After about 8 hours of healthy sleep, the purge is complete. The adenosine is totally cleared out, your circadian rhythm starts ramping back up, and you wake up feeling physically vigorous and mentally sharp. But the really crucial point here is what happens next in the brain while we're clearing out that chemical pressure. During non-rapid eye movement sleep, or NREM sleep, a vital real estate transaction takes place. Throughout the day, your brain stores new, fact-based memories in a temporary structure called the hippocampus. It's best to think of it like a fragile short-term USB drive. Its capacity is super limited. But during sleep, your brain acts as a file transfer mechanism, moving those fragile new memories from the hippocampus up into the neocortex, which acts as your permanent, secure, long-term hard drive. Sleep actually accelerates the specific steps of memory consolidation. It helps stabilize new information, enhances it by strengthening the neural connections, and seamlessly integrates these fresh files into your existing memory networks. By moving yesterday's memories into permanent storage, sleep completely clears out your short-term cache. This means you wake up with a totally refreshed ability to learn new things the very next day, avoiding a storage crisis where you might otherwise overwrite important information. This neural archiving is a massive return on investment for those 30 years we spend asleep.
And this entire file transfer is powered by some incredible brainwave activity.
During deep NREM sleep, you produce these long, slow brainwaves that act like couriers, physically carrying these memory packets across the vast geographical distances of your brain. At the exact same time, you experience fast frequency bursts of activity called sleep spindles. These spindles act like nocturnal soldiers, literally standing guard to shield your brain from external noises, so your sleep and this critical file transfer isn't interrupted.
Now, this nightly maintenance highlights a pretty shocking contrast regarding our brain health. The scientific sources actually describe wakefulness as a form of low-level brain damage. I know, sounds intense. But while you're awake, toxic metabolic waste builds up. Sleep is the evolutionary cure. It's a neurological sanitation process. During sleep, your brain uses a glymphatic system to wash away dangerous debris, including amyloid proteins. Those are the poisonous elements strongly linked to Alzheimer's disease. Simply put, lack of sleep leaves these toxins to just sit and accumulate in your brain.
Meanwhile, upstairs in the emotional centers of your brain, REM sleep, the stage where we dream, is performing a vital recalibration. It restores the tight connection between your impulsive amygdala, which is basically your emotional gas pedal, and your rational prefrontal cortex, which acts as the brakes. We all know that terrible feeling of being short-tempered and emotionally volatile when we haven't slept well, right? Well, that's because without sleep, this vital connection gets severed. We become all gas and no brakes. REM sleep essentially resets our emotional compass overnight, so we don't wake up reactive and impulsive. And hey, the benefits of spending 30 years offline aren't just in your head. While your brain is busy archiving memories and taking out the neural trash, the rest of your body undergoes a massive overnight tune-up. Deep sleep restocks the armory of your immune system to fight off malignancy and infection. It fine-tunes your metabolic insulin and glucose balance. It literally acts as natural blood pressure medication, drastically lowering cardiovascular strain, all while communicating a calming signal to soothe your fight-or-flight sympathetic nervous system. It's a complete, full-body overhaul.
So you might be wondering, how did we humans specifically get so incredibly good at this restorative process? Why is our sleep so different from other primates? Well, the sources point to a monumental evolutionary jump that happened when early hominids evolved from sleeping precariously in the branches of trees to sleeping securely on the ground. And this wasn't just a change in location, it was a fundamental shift in our biology. Let's be real, trying to catch some deep, restorative sleep while dangling 50 feet in the air is a pretty good recipe for disaster.
Once we didn't have to stress about the very real threat of gravity pulling us out of a tree in the middle of the night, our sleep completely evolved. See, Mother Nature actually enforces muscle paralysis during REM sleep so we don't act out our dreams. If you're in a tree, muscle paralysis means plunging to your death. But on the ground, we were finally free to consume all the body-immobilized REM sleep we wanted. As a result, human sleep became shorter in overall duration compared to other primates, but vastly more concentrated with rich, high-quality REM sleep.
This massive boost in high-quality REM sleep essentially bathed our developing brains in a state perfectly designed to process complex emotions and memories. The sources highlight that this likely lubricated our cognitive creativity and our emotional intelligence. Because we were able to expertly regulate our own emotions and accurately read the emotions of others, humans were able to form cooperative alliances and remarkably complex social structures. In a very real, awe-inspiring way, transitioning to concentrated REM sleep on the ground may have rocketed humanity right up the evolutionary ladder.
All of this reveals a profound truth that should honestly reshape how we view our daily routines. We are constantly hearing about diet and exercise, but sleep is actually the preeminent force in our health trinity, sitting high above the other two. Just as this quote notes, the physical and mental impairments caused by one single night of bad sleep absolutely dwarf those caused by an equivalent absence of food or exercise. It is the absolute non-negotiable foundation of human health.
So, I want to leave you with a bit of a provocative thought to ponder. The next time you find yourself thinking about staying up late just to be quote-unquote productive, what is the true cost of your wakefulness? Are you really willing to incur low-level brain damage, emotional volatility, and severe metabolic strain just to answer a few more emails? Or will you start treating your 30 years of sleep not as a luxury, but as the ultimate biological upgrade it was always designed to be? Thanks so much for exploring this science with me.